Hi, I'm Dan Ciamatero, writer and artist of Snot-Ball comics. And this is Playing With Myself, the show where we talk toys. And today, we're playing with the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Garfello action figure. So, ready or not, let's whip it out. Well, cowabunga there, cats and kittens. And here we have our little man fresh out of the package. And as we like to say, comes with everything you see here. So let's take a quick moment to see just what he comes with. You've got your box right here. You've got all your head sculpts, hand sculpts, props and pizzas right up in the front. And taking center stage is the furry feline himself, the titular Garfello, and his ever-loyal sidekick, Odie. And I am just itching to get into this review, guys, so let's dig a little deeper. All right, kids, well, here we have him. And I can tell you I'm so excited to have this little dude in my collection that I don't even give a shit that I don't know where the fuck this guy came from in the first place. Of course, that's a half-truth. I had no idea where he came from, but then of course I looked it up. Not for your benefit, mind you, just because I wanted to know myself. And apparently he came from a 1992 issue of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles magazine, where they crossed over with Garfield, who showed up in the Turtles' lair to defend these pizzas while they went out and fought crime. I won't tell you the rest of it, but spoiler alert, Odie fucks everything up. Anyway, we're not here to talk about magazines, we're here to talk about toys, and we've got some really, really nice ones right in front of you here. So let's take a look at everything you're gonna get with this figure. Starting with head sculpts. We've got one right here, which is gonna be you're super excited to see those pizzas. He's got his eyes blown open, he's got his ears pulled back, he is ready to dig in. And we've got another one right here where he is slightly less excited. Apparently, we're intended to make his mood go from totally chill to totally stoked. And I can tell you that I'm pretty stoked on that. For the most part, I'll probably keep this one on him because I like the half-lidded eyes and the shit-eating grin. But up next, we have hands aplenty. The hands that he comes with are these little C grips, but we've also got a open hand here with nice cartoony fingers. We have some fists right here for all that ninja fighting that he has no intention of doing. And we have these last little guys right here. And I realize that it is a little close up for you guys. They're tiny details. I don't know if you could see them, but these are not a repeat of these open hands here, because these guys have nice little kitty cat claws on them, which I think is pretty awesome. I think there's a pretty good chance that one of those is ending up on this figure. But anyway, we'll move on. Right here we have a straw for no fucking reason. Over here, we have that previously mentioned stack of delicious piping hot pizzas. And right over here in his hand, we've got the one and only weapon that this guy's ever going to need, and that's his standard issue Ninja Pizza Cutter. And that comes fully articulated for cutting into those pizza pies. And finally, we have the very last accessory here, and it is this guy. And no, this is not just a turtle shell. This is, in fact, the one and only head swap for Odie over here, as you can tell by this nice red tongue sticking right out the front. So anyway, having said all of that, here are the two figures. And I am going to go ahead and start right here with Odie. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at him and all of his details and all of his paint apps here. To start with, and this is something I've noticed in all the NECA Ninja Turtle figures, which again is another reason why I love these figures so very, very much as a cartoonist, is I can't really tell which parts of these are painted or not because they all have a really nice sort of rich paint shell over the top of them. So I won't get into the differences between the plastic and the paint apps outside of the lines and details on there, which there's quite a few, and again, I really, really like that on these figures. So anyway, just like he always has, Odie's got his big perky brown ears, and he has his big perky white eyes with the black pupils on the inside. He is this pastel yellow from head to toe with a nice black nose right in the front. And when you turn him around to the back, you're going to see that he's got one little black spot on each of his little ass cheeks there, as well as that perky little tail and a nice little tuft of hair right on the back. You're going to see that all the creases on his feet and legs and neck, as well as the bulges on his cheeks and his nose here, have a very, very nice little black line on there, which again is going to make him look super cartoony, and in this case, look very much like the art in the Jim Davis comics, which I love very, very much, and I cannot speak more highly about when it comes to these NECA Ninja Turtle figures. Okay, so before we move on to the main man himself, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the articulation on Odie over here. And here's where things get a little iffy. The reality is that these figures are just entirely too small, and they're just entirely too designed to kind of stand the way that they stand for any of this articulation to have any real effect on the characters. However, these NECA figures always do have really nice articulation, so my guess is they're going to put in exactly as much as they can get away with. So let's start with this head. Clearly he can turn his head from left to right. He can move his head up and down on what appears to be a ball joint there. And you can also get a nice little cock in the head like that, which is always very adorable on your puppy dogs. And we'll put him right back there to begin with. Now, coming from his head down his neck, this body is all just one little bean shape right there. There's really nothing going to happen there. Nothing goes on with the tail. So we will move on to the legs here. And like I said, there is very limited articulation in the legs, but there is some. The leg itself can turn a little bit, and the foot itself can turn a little bit. There's also a bit of a rocker on that foot, so the toe can go up, the toe can go down. You could kind of put him on his tippy toes if you want to, or you could spread his legs out a little bit, and you can move those feet so that he could get them nice and flat on the ground, regardless of how far you spread them apart, which I cannot stress enough is not going to be very far. This thing is pretty much, for the most part, just a little figurine, but he does have a nice little range of motion on his head, and that's pretty much where you're going to get most of the articulation. So moving on to his back legs, his legs and feet back here do have quite a bit of motion range there. You can move it up and down quite a bit. You can even move it out a little bit, and his foot has a complete rocker system on it, so you can move it backward and forward, but I will tell you to be very, very extremely careful because I did just rip his leg off and it took me 5 minutes to get it back on. But it's back on there and he looks pretty good, and I won't be futzing around with that too much more. And there is your Odie figure right there. And if you want to, I think it's pretty obvious, you're just gonna go ahead and tug on this head here until it pops right off, and you can put this little friend right on there like so till that pops right on. And you could put him right there next to Garfello with that little turtle shell on his head and his adorable little red tongue sticking out the front. And we will just put his traditional Odie head right there next to all of the Garfield heads, and we will move on to Garfello here. I will go ahead and I will take this little friend right out of his hand and I'll put it right there. And there you have our Garfarello, as I like to call him, and he looks fantastic. Just like Odie, he is a beautiful piece for your collection, and let's take a look again at this figure. And as I stated before, he does have this very, very nice little matte shell over the top of him. It seems as though everything on these figures is painted, and it gives it a really, really nice cartoony look, as I said before. So let's take a look at the paint apps on this figure right here. And unlike Odie here, who is pretty much just a standard Odie figure, this is not a standard Garfield figure. There's nothing you can do to turn this character back into Garfield. He is always going to be the Ninja Turtle version of this character, so if you're looking for a standard Garfield in your collection, you're not going to get it here. Although you will get a very nice Odie. As for Garfello here, he has the standard orange from head to toe. He has the standard black lines he always has in his hair. He has the standard black lines he always has in his ears there. He has the nice orange on his eyes. As I said, his lids are half shut. He has the nice little black pupils and the nice white eyes there. As always, he has the nice little yellow muzzle right up here in front. He has a very mischievous little grin there as he's come to raid the Ninja Turtles pizzas. And of course he has that standard pink nose right on the front. And the 3 hairs that he usually has sticking out on either side of his head, and those are the standard black color there. This, of course, is the part that is not standard, and that is this black mask right here. Now, I like the black mask. It's a nice little effect. Unlike the Ninja Turtles, he doesn't have a color here, but the black does go with the orange and the black that is standard on Garfield, and it's a really, really nice look there. Coming down, we're going to see that he does have this makeshift turtle shell on. It's going to be the same yellow color that he has on his muzzle there. And he does have a black belt with a silver G for Garfello right there on the front. He has brown elbow pads right here on either elbow. And he has brown knee pads here on either knee. Coming down to the feet, of course, as I said before, he is that standard orange color. So we are all done with the front, and we will move on to the back. And you can see that we have the same green on this turtle shell that we have on Odie's turtle shell over here. And we have the same very, very nice little swirl details, as well as the black lines cutting up all of the sections of that turtle shell there. And coming down the tail, we have all the little black lines, as well as that very dark black spot right at the bottom of the tail. Then coming back up to the top of the figure, we have the very final detail here, which is this very nice little bow effect of the tie on the back of that mask. Turning him back around toward you, we're going to find that he's going to have a lot of the same issues that Odie has when it comes with articulation. However, because he is standing upright, because he is a little bit taller than the Odie figure is, at least in stature, you're going to find that he moves at least a little bit better than Odie does. Starting with the head, he can look up and down pretty good. He can turn his head from side to side. I'm going to go ahead and assume that since his head comes off, he can turn it all the way around like The Exorcist, but I'm not going to be doing that. You can use your imagination. Coming down to his arms, it can come up like so. Again, I assume it could go all the way around, but he does have these big fat cheeks here, so you're not getting around those. And you can come back all the way around back this way, and again until you run into that cheek. But you're not going to find too much of an obstacle in this turtle shell, which is nice. You could bring him back around. His arm will come out to a pretty decent degree. I'm not going to force it. I don't want this arm popping off. That ball joint inside is pretty big and it's really hard to get these back on. When I tried to get Odie's back on, I shot him across the room. It took me a really long time to even find him under the couch. The hand has some movement here. You can turn it all the way around. And it has this little joint on it so that it can come back to a fair degree and it could go forward to a fair degree. So you could put it right back like that. You could put it back down to his side. You could do the exact same thing on the left side of his body. So let's move down a little bit. He does not have any sort of articulation in the belly region. He has no ab crunch. There's no way to split him in half and get him to bend over in any direction outside of the legs. And these legs are very extremely stiff where they joint into the belly there. But you can move them left and right to a pretty decent degree. You cannot really move them backward or forward much. He kind of goes about right there. You can see he could get one foot out in front of the other foot, but not very far. And again, maybe if you feel like wrenching on yours well enough to get it out there, you could do that. But it doesn't seem like it goes much farther than that, even if you were to kind of give it hell. You do have a very nice range of motion on the lower leg there, and the cut is hidden right there up against that shin guard, but you can kind of turn his leg from side to a very decent degree. Again, I'm going to go ahead and assume that this guy probably could turn all the way around if it wasn't going to bump into the other foot and into the tail in the back there. But when you get down to the foot, you also have a fair amount of motion there. You have a rocker on it, so you can move the ankle left and right, and you can move the foot up and down to a decent degree. But like I say, it's fighting me pretty good right now, and I am not pulling that foot off for you guys. So anyway, that is the articulation on that figure. And if you move around to the back, you're going to find that he can wag that tail a little bit, but it is definitely going to stay flat on the ground. It does not come up or down at all, but you can turn it from side to side, which I'm going to go ahead and assume, one, will give you a little bit of fun articulation, but two, if you find these feet are having a hard time flattening out for you, which they do sometimes, make it kind of tough to keep him standing upright, that tail is definitely going to keep him from falling over, which is always really nice in your collection to have something to anchor the figure if the feet refuse to cooperate. So, there you have it. There is our Garfello, as we say. And here is your Odie with the turtle shell on his head. There are all of his accessories. And since we're done with all of that, let's get into some comparisons. All right, gang, moving on to some comparisons. And since these guys are officially Ninja Turtle characters, let's start with some Ninja Turtles. But not just any Ninja Turtles, we have the Punk Ninja Turtles. Starting right here with Donatello, moving on to the party dude himself, Michelangelo, and then the leader of the gang, Leonardo, and finishing off with the bad boy himself, Raphael. And here you have the Punk Turtles, ready to be punked by the Fat Cat himself. And up next, continuing with the cartoony theme, we have some very nice cartoony figures from my collection. We have the Boss Fight Studios Popeye right here with his spinach. And we have his lovely lady Olive Oil right here. These are very nice figures and a very nice complement to these two cartoony figures right up here in the front. They all look really nice together. They would display well together if you felt like putting them there and not with your Ninja Turtles. And finally, gang, I've got one more cartoony surprise for you from my collection, and that is this fellow right here, who is, of course, Vegetarian Duck from Happy Childhood. Of course, anybody who knows knows that this is Count Duckula, but that's the knockoff name they gave him because they obviously couldn't get the rights to this figure. But they still did a very good job on the likeness here, and as you can see, he looks really nice next to these figures. If you are wanting to put together a who's who of cartoon figures, you can't go wrong with these three right here. Anyway, those are the figures. That was my review, and thanks for joining us. Be sure to join us next time when I'll be playing with myself. And I hope you all had fun playing with yourselves too. I'll catch you on the flip side, kids. Thanks again for playing. If you like what you see, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you don't miss any more of our wacky content. See you again soon.